All right, I'm going to come in here with a soft open, Anthony.
What do we got
today?
today?
I know you're waiting for the music, but
I love every choice. I always can't wait.
But given our guest today and kind of the theme of the day, I wanted to paint a picture because obviously, we've talked about this before. You and I were introduced through my fine establishment. Rest in peace.
Gaslight Studio.
And back in the day, we always looked to try and do stuff that was unique, right? We wanted to do something a little bit curveball, a little off in left field, whatever the pun is that you want to apply.
Yeah.
One of my favorite events ever. I'm going to paint a picture here. So Gaslight Studio was a taco bar front, dark, right? Rock and rolly. But then at the end of the room, there was this massive, 10 by 12 foot soundproof glass wall. And on the other side of that soundproof glass was our music studio.
Yep.
So the concept was really simple. Having grown up in music and in studios for my whole life, I'm like, this is the coolest part of the process. This is the coolest thing about music is making it and the banter, et cetera. And I wanted to put that art on display because most of the time when people engage music, it's done. It's packaged. It's rolled out. You hit the radio. There it is, or Spotify, or whatever. That's when you find it. But the coolest part of every song that's ever been made is the why, the how, and the process, the journey that it went down, right? Yeah. So that's what we would do. And we had a friend, her name was Barbara Boltman, who was I met her through bartending. She was a bartender.
Yeah.
Right? Typical South City kind of thing. Her passion was fashion. She was is a designer, right? Would make dresses, et cetera, fashion design. So we were talking, we're like, hey, what about a fashion show at Gaslight?
Amazing.
Right? So you know where we're going with this. So here we go. Here comes the music. You have to put yourself in the room. The curtain's drawn. And all of a sudden, what do you hear? Here we go. I'm going to play it. Coming out of the studio, out of the speakers, this. All St. Louis, baby, right? So the music starts to play. Curtains open. People are like, what the fuck are we doing? Like, what is going on here? And they look through the glass, sitting in their road, fashion show chairs. And there's two brothers with stringy long hair playing this. And then into the studio comes models. Fashion. And they would walk up to the glass like it was a Barbie house. And we did that all night long, and it was the coolest event we ever had.
No
because
shit.
Because we just kept rolling the music. They kept throwing out new designs, and everybody's like, this has never happened. That's what we did.
No.
So
I believe it.
That was a long setup.
That place was Brooklyn and St. Louis. Really
but given the show, right? Our theory is to prove that St. Louis is way more than. Go ahead, say it. You can say it. T-Rabs and gooey butter.
That's right.
That's
and
the
barbecue, toasted ravioli. Yeah, gooey butter cake.
Provel.
Free zoos.
But stuff like that.
God bless the free zoo. But.
Oh, there you go. So I thought, like, in doing a little bit of research, taking a look at what our guest has done, I thought it'd be cool to kind of connect some of those dots.
Yeah.
Because now, obviously, we don't do that anymore. Kevin McKernan, the fine Kevin McKernan from Improv, etc. He is now the proprietor of Gaslight. So it's not my baby anymore, but these things happen in this town all the time.
Yeah.
But it's the fashion side, which we have a tremendous history with, that I had no idea, right? So here we go. How's it been? How are you been?
Bringing it all together.
Trying to.
I love it.
There's a little narrative there.
I love it.
People are like 30. How you been? What's going on?
Good. I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to be, just a typical beautiful St. Louis spring day. It's 20 degrees in the morning and 70 in the afternoon. And,
on days like this,
what are we going to do?
Do you leave with a coat?
Do I?
Mm-hmm.
I always have one. Yep. I come with one on. Coat comes off. It's funny. It's one of those things like when whenever people are coming here to visit or interview, you have no idea what to tell them to pack because it could be anything.
Well, it's like Boy Scout weather, right?
Yeah.
You got to be prepared.
Yeah.
But then if you have kids, well, here's what they do. It doesn't matter
Yeah.
what the temperature is going to be. They walk out in shorts and a hoodie.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's like half their body's perfect at
What
8
is up
a.m.
with the
and other-
kid? What is up with the kids and the teenagers? They are all about the shorts. It does not matter what.
Well,
time
that doesn't
of
freak me out as much as now they're all about the baggy jeans that I got rid of 15 years ago.
year. They're all about.
And I tell
Yeah.
you what, we might as well bring our guest on here in just a second, because the other thing that really is blowing my mind, fashion-wise,
Yeah.
kids today,
Yeah.
with the boys in particular,
Yeah.
New Balance.
Yes.
White.
I know.
My dad's,
I know.
my son walked out in his a couple weeks ago. I'm like, dude, what are you doing?
Orthopedic.
Yeah, I'm like, wait.
Old man. I know.
I'm like,
Yeah.
are you going to the track for a walk?
I mean,
or what
it's
are you guys doing?
I just had a midlife crisis. Corvette, jorts, and New Balance.
He got pissed. He got really pissed because I was making fun of him. I'm like, dude, you don't understand.
Same.
I said, I can't not laugh. He goes, well, why are you being an asshole, Dad? I don't get it. I said, look, wait till the end of the day. I will show you pictures of my dad, your grandfather, in those, cutting grass and barbecuing at the same time.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
And
I'm glad some of it's coming back. I mean, some of it is, as a fellow turkey leg muffin top guy, the low rise skinny jeans have not been good. So one of the things we'll talk about. I'm happy to see the high rise and some of the other pants coming into the male world, but needs a little help, needs a little guidance.
quick, shit. Quick thank you for those of you that have been listening to the show, because being a graduate in economics as well, I like when numbers go up and to the right, and they are going up and to the right.
What's up with that?
I don't know. We fooled them.
I mean,
Our last guest, Heather Carrero.
yep.
I actually had a friend in the neighborhood that's like always like, oh, I'm gonna listen to it. She's like, oh, I gotta see her rubric.
Yeah. She sent it to me.
Did she really?
Yeah, I have it. I have the Google Doc.
Okay, so for those of you that are listening, you're like, what the hell? Which rubric? Heather is from the Northeast Boston area, I believe.
From Boston, and then moved here from Santa Barbara.
Via the Far East.
Via the Far East, yep.
And when she was ready for a move,
Pakistan and Korea.
and when she was ready for a move out of California, she put together this transplant rubric,
Yep.
right?
Correct. All
All
cities
these-
she's lived in.
And all these things that she wanted, and well, the punchline is she chose St. Louis.
Yep.
And the data is adding up.
Right.
So great episode though.
Music, fashion, her kiddos, quality of life stuff. But then the other one that I loved about that show was also, I don't know if you've seen around the country, all about how in all of these dating scenarios in all of these cities, it's all women.
Yeah.
And here she got here, she met the love of her life, also a musician and a data scientist. And she went to the speed dating event downtown St. Louis, and it was all men. And it was all men looking for a relationship.
It was actually one of my favorite lines of that.
Yeah. And I was like, this needs to be bottled and packaged. And then she sent that rubric she has a network of friends, and they all kind of add to the rubric from wherever city that they're living in. And she was like, this is the most unbelievable thing, because it's 3 women to every 1 guy in every other city. And in St. Louis, it was literally reversed.
Yeah, the 3 things that I took away was that. I
Yeah.
thought it was hilarious when she's like, I went to a dating event expecting to get a girtaglirlfriend.
Right. Because she had like given up. She was like,
Right.
well, I'm just going to go make friends, which is what they're now doing.
And then
Yeah.
her 2 taglines, she can brand it if she wants, but affordable urbanism.
Mm-hmm.
Because we always debate this whole St. Louis is cheap. How do we brand that? How do we market that? And
Yep.
she landed on affordable urbanism, which I really like that.
Yep.
And then accessible urbanism, which I think was even smarter
Yep.
because of just the logistics that we have here. Great episode though. Go check it out. Go over on the YouTubes. You can actually watch us talk about it. Okay, without further ado,
Well, thank you, Heather.
You brought in another friend of yours. Go ahead and
Another friend,
roll out the
Laura
carpet.
Sawyer. Thank you for joining us today. I would say more than a friend. This is funny because the person that I go to whether I'm doing anything related to PR, anything related to our company, anything related to, it's kind of like having a speechwriter and you want to run it by them first, but the person who I go to and sort of look up to for all of that mentorship, I couldn't do that for the show today because you're on it. So we have, sometimes Acclimate is known as the closer, but then if I ever have a candidate or a client in town and they just have to go through the, wait, you live in St. Louis? This is our Laura is one of those experiences for our New Yorkers, but really anyone in the world going, wait a minute, oh, you've made this work, and we've really been able to bring in some unbelievable candidates and new folks to the region, in no smart part because of you, and then also because of your work, which I want to talk to you about too. So thank you and welcome.
It's my pleasure. Your banter just back and forth. You said a few things and I was like, keep your mouth shut. Wait until it's your turn, Laura. No, don't be sorry. I don't mean it like that. I meant like, oh my gosh, I would like to comment on that. I would like to ask questions on that. I'm such a conversationalist, so I'm excited to be here with both of you.
Unleash.
To talk all the things. I want to say the quick thing about your previous interview with your friend Heather, which is you talked about like accessibility and affordability. And one of my words, I was like, oh, I'm so giddy and excited inside because one of my values in life is approachability, particularly in the work that I do, which, we'll get into
What
here
you
in a
do.
minute. But approachability is at the core of everything I truly do. It's so critical. And I think St. Louis is a community that is actually more approachable, perhaps, I think, than its sort of old reputation maybe currently stands at least from this 12-year transplant here.
12 years. So let's go back to T-1 because you're clearly older than 12. So the previous years, put a pin in the map for us. Give us a little bit of
where do I come from?
The roots. Yeah, exactly. Because as Anthony was just laying out and kind of looking at you, the work that you do, it doesn't make sense given kind of the tropes that we have here in St. Louis. So talk a little bit about the roots, the path. A little bio, if you don't mind.
Sure. I'll start by saying why I'm here, because usually when I meet people in St. Louis, and I think this is just natural conversation that a lot of people are conditioned to have that I would love to sort of condition out of, because my answer, I think, is usually the surprise to everybody. And, they say, you're not from here. And then, I'm married and they say, oh, is your husband from here? And I say, no. And they're like, why are you here? And I'm like, come on, we're here because we love St. Louis. Yep. And so I'm going to tell this story a little bit backwards and come full circle on it. But I've been here for 12 years in St. Louis, and I moved here at the time I was living in Manhattan. I grew up at West Point, New York, the military academy. And my dad was head of cadet health there, and then divorced parents. So I sort of was dispersed all over Southern New York State, college in Connecticut, ended up graduating college early, moved into the city because I needed to get a job and really start working. And was there for a few years working as an event designer and marketer. And my husband, Mark, who has now been here for over 20 years, WashU, he launched a business as an undergrad and had made such a great business community and network here. He decided to stay. And 14 years ago, launched a software company. And so he just happened to be home in New York City visiting family one weekend over 13 years ago. And we met the good old-fashioned way at a bar.
Oh, my God, in person.
Gosh,
Get out of here.
That's archaic.
It's
in the wild.
Does that give you at my age range?
Cool.
And so we fell in love very fast and quickly. And I moved to St. Louis 9 months after meeting him. And in fact, 4 months of dating immediately, he was like, hey, you now know I need to be in St. Louis. What do you think? And I was like, are you out of your mind?
Yeah.
Not not about coming here, but I just met a guy 4 months ago and I was like, that's insane.
There's also that. Yeah.
There's also that.
Yeah.
But, you know, in life, I think we need to be reminded to take risks more and to get a little outside of our comfort zone if we feel something.
So
When
let me ask,
you know.
Yeah, let me ask a question, because we were talking about Heather's episode a second ago, and her intro to St. Louis was purely statistically driven. Like, she was literally pulling data, and St. Louis's name was on there. Obviously,
my stat was love.
So let's take that out of the equation. What was St. Louis to you pre-love, if anything?
Oh, I mean, before I even came here, well, I think I was foreshadowed in coming here because my brother, who is still active duty military, was stationed at Fort Leonard Wood, and in college. We don't need to get too much into the weeds here, but I'm not connected to my parents anymore in life and needed to graduate college early and get out into the workforce and go take care of myself quickly. And my brother and his wife, young brother and his wife, were very supportive of me. And every like spring break or so, they would fly me to wherever they were living in the world. And they happened to be living my junior year at Fort Leonard Wood. And so they were like, come out, see our little kids, and, you know, come to Missouri. And I came, and I remember going on my way back to go back to college. We went to the St. Patrick's Day Parade in downtown St. Louis, and I saw the arch, and I went in the arch for the first time. And here I am at, 19 or whatever. And I'm like, oh, okay, this seems like a cool place, but I'm only visiting. So I didn't think much about it.
Yeah.
And then I met Mark, and I was like, St. Louis, I went there once.
Yeah.
And so I think
was up in the arch.
Yeah, right. He's 6'6", and he was like, I've never been in the arch, and I don't think I'll fit.
Yeah.
So
He can't get in the eggs.
he can't get in the eggs. That's right. But yeah, I don't know that I had, to be honest, much of a strong opinion about it. I think, at the time I was 25, 26 years old, so you can all do the math now, but I was young and I was eager and I was in love, and I was sort of, maybe my brain was just fully developing in the prefrontal cortex. So I was willing to sort of not think too much and take some action. And so I came, but it was hard for about 18 months.
Sure.
We hear a lot about St. Louis natives and women bringing the boys to St. Louis, so it's fun to.
I
see.
mean, it's a
It's
common
fun to see
thing, and
it's
the
fun
harder
to see a St. Louis transplant bring. Now we're going the other direction, which is also really cool.
Right.
Yeah, and then the harder it is to pronounce and spell said school.
Yeah, you've always said
she's
you
from,
take all the Catholic schools
Yeah.
and just send everyone out in the world, and we will just fill the sidewalks.
We don't need to sell conferences. We just need to ship our private school women out to the coast and bring them.
I'm telling you, Zeke.
I know you're joking. No comment. Come on.
Oh,
no,
yeah.
I hear what you're saying though in it, and I do. I sort of alluded to this before. It's funny to me when people, perfectly well intended. At least that's how I take it. I'm like a half glass full kind of person, and when people say to me, why neither of you are from here? Why are you here?
Right.
And I get to like sort of reframe it in a way and be like, because we love it. We have a great network here. Mark stayed for a reason, and it has served him well. And I think just going back to my part of my story where, I moved here and was like so in love. And then I think I got probably a little depressed after that, because love is strong, but then there's life that you have to live too.
Yeah.
And I didn't have a job at the beginning. And, he had just started his company. He was about a year in. And I didn't know anybody. I've lived in the Central West End. I've always lived in the Central West End for the last 12 years. And I mean, in hindsight, look back without criticism to myself, because I think we all need processing time when we're in transitions, no matter what in life. But I certainly, I was like too afraid to walk out of the house to go walk into Forest Park, not because of the park, but because I was like so down on myself that I was in this new place that I didn't want to work as hard as I needed to, or knew at the time that I needed to get out and be in community and to build community. And I had to like kind of get over it myself in the beginning, which sounds kind of ridiculous to say, but I was reflecting on that recently.
Yeah.
Like, I literally lived a quarter of a mile from Forest Park, and I went in there, but like I'm in there, especially in the summertime, I'm in there almost every day walking.
Yeah.
I had to learn it though.
St. Louis doesn't unroll the way some of the other markets do. It doesn't. You kind of have to go to it to a certain extent, and that's what's required.
Sure. And I mean, living in the Upper East Side in New York, I was forced to walk out my door and like go to the subway and get on the subway and go to work and do all the other things.
But I think that's that brings, particularly with a lot of the people that we work with, it brings your credibility. I mean, you've really done it. You've done the journey. You've lived, where you've lived. And then you kind of have the roadmap and the tools about really getting integrated into St. Louis. And I think it's really, really effective. I mean, I'm even at the point where I've been here so long and then being born here, I have an impact, but there's nothing like, they say it's not the message, it's the messenger. And I think really, people like you who've done the steps that you've done, I think can be, attraction machines.
Yeah. And I have a question about, because you mentioned that your husband went to WashU. Clearly that's a whole other club. Right, that's a family, right? What were the conversations like as far as like, because he's not from here either. Clearly, being a WashU grad, fell in love with it, started his company here. What were those conversations like early, as far as like him not being from here but being a WashU grad, kind of trying to either sell you on the city or describe what it is, because you guys come from the same background, same area. And this is a different place. How did he sell that? What was his, because I'm sure he had some consternation wondering, I don't know if she's going to come to St. Louis, right?
I'd have to ask him that. But what I would say as the knee-jerk response to this is he's a really good salesman. He started a software company. He knows how to sell, and we sort of laugh at that, now at the point in which we've been together. And he's like, yeah, I sold her really well, Mm-hmm. And he did. And so I don't know that I've really sat and really thought about it or asked it, or maybe we were there and maybe I've forgotten, admittedly, because to Anthony's very generous compliment about, how I've really chosen to show up in this community. And it doesn't just take me choosing to show up. It takes a whole ecosystem of people and places to come together and participate. And so certainly to, I think answer your question in a way, talking about, Mark already having the WashU community baked into his experience here. Mm-hmm. I think in any community, anywhere where you have, influential institutions, whether it's universities, arts and cultural institutions, nonprofits, even, and maybe I should keep large corporations to the side of this, because that's a whole other domain in the work that you navigate, which has its own set of challenges. Yep. But I think when you already, let's just talk about universities, where I have no qualifications to speak to the impact of universities and communities, but as someone who lives in a town where, places like WashU, places like SLU, and the many other universities that are in this region, I think from where I sit, I think that they do a pretty good job at trying to, mm-hmm. Really sort of enmesh into different places. But like, you can't be everything to everybody, and you can't be everywhere. And so right. I think I would say, lastly, that he even in these later years, because he did his undergrad there, people also ask like, oh, did he do his MBA? And I'm like, no, he like basically got his MBA by launching, and starting yep. two businesses. And everyone has their own path, but he's gotten more involved with WashU later now, I think, than he was then. So I don't know if that's the answer you were looking for. That's just the reality.
Yeah, no, it's actually kind of like, it's kind of what I expected, because we know so many people that have been either locals and or transplants through the WashU incubator, right? And when they come out of there, because of the power of the institution, because of the success, right? It tends to be the same kind of thing where there's not really a sale. It's like, look, we're from WashU. These are our businesses. This is what we do. But yet it all kind of flies under the radar, so that whenever individuals that are not from here come in and they meet somebody from WashU, from St. Louis in general, they're always like, I had no idea.
Yeah. Certainly. And I think, what I will say is, and I'm not in the trenches with what they're doing at WashU with their whole campaign to, really try to keep people in St. Louis. I'd also like to believe that really is something that they feel deeply, but I think it's such a layered contextual thing that can be really challenging. What I am proud of with humility and grace, and it's why I'm happy to share both my story with Mark's story, because we get to do it together, but we also sort of walk alongside one another as entrepreneurs in this community too, is stories move people. I really understand that through the work that I do. And I think it's important, and I enjoy sharing our story about this community because we love St. Louis so much.
Wow. And talk to me a little bit about, talk to us a little bit about your work, kind of how a little bit of the genesis of it. And I've got so many questions for you. I don't even know where to begin, but I know right now you're doing a program, kind of a graduate program, Psychology of Fashion at Harvard, which is amazing. I know one that you kind of helped create. And then also how styling and the difference between style and fashion, and some of the things, one of the things I really appreciated about your TED Talk a couple years ago too was how that affects and impacts belonging, how it affects connection, and certainly for people relocating, what does style and image and how all of it blends together. You're kind of really taking all of the pieces from a macro emotional psychological perspective and putting it's a tall order, but how did all of that evolve? Yeah. So where did we it was more than just styling. It was more than just fashion. It was really the psychology behind it, and how that impacts relocation. Talk to me a little bit about it.
I'll start with the origin of my business, and I think it will answer some of those great questions more naturally as it comes out. And so a little over 8 years ago at the time, I had moved here, and prior to coming to St. Louis in New York City, I worked for an event design firm, and I was doing event design and production, and also I was a marketer. And came here, and it was just a different market in that kind of industry. It just sort of some geographical locations have different industries that, have more of a flourishing market than others. And, I mentioned that I didn't have a job when I moved here because, I moved here and Mark was like, just come. I want us to be together, And so I knew I would be able to figure it out. I'm certainly a very, I'm going to figure it out kind of person.
Yeah.
And so after I was a little miserable for a little while, I, was really fortunate, and a friend of mine who still runs an event production company here in St. Louis today was like, come work part-time with me. I don't have a full-time job I can offer you, but just, get back into some work, start to meet some people. And I did that. And then I sort of eventually migrated in, funny enough, working for a financial services firm in their marketing department. And I met one of my two mentors at the time. And this is important because she and I traveled the country. We got to know each other really well, built a relationship with her. She does not live in St. Louis, nor did she ever, but we were in touch a lot. And then after working at that firm for about 15 months, I was recruited away to help launch an event design firm here in St. Louis. And I did that for a year. It was really fun. It was really, for me, the most sort of in-depth entrepreneurial exposure that I had firsthand. And after a year, decided that I was going to part ways from that organization. And this mentor of mine, December of 2018, sat me down. She was in town. We went and we had breakfast, and she said, "What do you want to do? Where do you want to spend your time?"
Yeah.
And I said, "I don't know, but what I do know is that if I can help one person feel really good about themselves just once a day, then I'm doing the thing that I'm supposed to be doing."
Yeah.
That just felt right to me.
Yeah.
And that still remains my North Star truly in the work that I do. And she turned to me and said, "Have you ever thought about personal styling?"
Yeah.
And I said, "Of course I have." She's like, "You have a great eye. You've got a great aesthetic. I think you understand the nuances and the contexts of walking into different rooms." She is now retired, but big thought leader, wrote a bunch of books, was on a lot of big stages, did a lot of TV appearances as an expert analyst, and was like, "I could really use your help." And so she flew me to Portland, Oregon, where she was living at the time. and said, let's just go through the motions and see if this thing can work, which is, I'm going to pause there and say, an extraordinary thing for anybody to have someone believing you like that and to put an investment in you that way when they've never seen you do the thing that you're just talking about.
So basically
mentorship.
she put you on a plane and said, let's try this concept.
And I'm going to pay you and let's do it.
Wow.
Absolutely. And she said, and if you don't like it, then at least now you know. And, you know, I will also weave into this. I've sort of alluded to this in different ways. You know, I have always been a creative, you know, I was a creative kid. I was also a big athlete as well growing up. And so
You were a skier.
I was an alpine skier growing up. And I think this is an important part of my story to me that I value a lot, because as a creative kid and an athletic kid and as a girl, growing up when I did, those things didn't always go next to one another necessarily. And I certainly was of the mindset that maybe they didn't belong together as well. And having that self-awareness for me now also informs the work that I do, which we'll dive into here more. But, you know, for me, I didn't ever feel like I had the quote pedigree to ever go work in fashion in New York. I had divorced parents. I needed to graduate from college early. I had amazing friends' parents who helped get me sort of on my feet. But I was in truly survival mode, you know, in my early 20s. And the idea of going to work at a fashion magazine or a brand, I was like, with everything that my life sort of definition is at the moment that I'm trying to work through, I don't think I fit in with these people. And that was just a surface level narrative that I told myself.
Can you take a second though and talk about, you've used the word entrepreneur,
Yes.
you know, in describing your approach. Your husband, also entrepreneur. His business is significantly more linear. There's software, there's sales, right? You know, I'm dumbing it down. I know they do a lot more than that, but
ones and twos.
very, very tangible.
Sure.
What you're talking about though, you know, when she asked you, what do you want to do? You know, like if I can make somebody feel good once a day, that's what I would do. But then if you reverse engineer that statement from a business entrepreneurial standpoint, it's like, okay, what's that worth?
Certainly.
Right? So as a young 20-something who loves style and aesthetics, but has this entrepreneurial thought process going on, at what point and where did you even start to like really bake in the dollars associated with to have a career? How do you make that work?
Certainly. I think right away, honestly, you know, when this mentor of mine who was like, let's see if this works and bill me like you're in New York City is literally what she said to me. So I did a ton of research and I was like, let me look up some packages here. I am, you know, I'm going to see if it works. And then from there, I went out and I just started telling people I knew, because when you change something about yourself in a drastic way for anybody, you have to be able to not only just show it, but you have to be able to articulate it over and over again. I mean, I had people here who were like, you're doing what? Huh?
Yeah.
How?
Let me toss a quick
You'll never get paid for that.
Yeah, let's get
Right.
let's get in the weeds for a second.
Sure.
Though. Let me part B of the question then and allow you to kind of keep going. Sorry for interrupting. To walk up to a potential client and lead with this kind of concept that like, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to look at your style. I'm going to look at your brand, et cetera. How do you convince them? Because every business in America, every business in the world, whenever a marketing person or a branding person comes up and says, you really need to pay us because your brand isn't right, they're thinking, if I spend this much money, where's my ROI? What's that ROI conversation look like to a client in your world?
Well, it's certainly changed now. So do you want to know what it's like now or in the beginning?
No, I like the beginning because everybody figures it out then.
Sure. I mean, yeah, right. I understand what it is now. And in the beginning, it was me literally calling friends and telling them I'm doing this. And I said, do you think you'd give me a shot and let me come in your closet with you and try this out? And would you be willing to pay me? And I had a few friends who were like, come on in, you know, absolutely. And they were like, I want to support you. I believe in you. let's do it. And I think that's really fortunate. And I know that I make that sound maybe a little bit easier than it actually is, because for any new entrepreneur, I'll say, even just in a services business, right? Who may go up to someone and say, I noticed, let's just talk about like a marketing consultant who wants to do a lot of social media work, right? And they go up to somebody and they say, hey, I just launched this business and I really like what you're doing and I'm hoping you'll give me a shot at it. Who's going to say yes to that? Like what percentage realistically?
Right.
It's really hard. It's really challenging for an entrepreneur. And I actually think, on reflection, this really feeds back into how powerful this community of St. Louis is because I started really building good friendships with people and I asked them and they said, sure, no problem.
And it's such an intimate experience, actually.
It's a very personal
going
experience.
into their closet.
You literally walk here. Let me
I guess here's the thing. Did they know, you know how you say,
no, they didn't know.
Did they know the pain and what that was, ahead of time? Or
I don't think you can always, one, I can't always know for someone. And two, I don't think anyone else fully maybe understands on the sort of like majority side of it,
Yeah.
Because now, and I've done it so many times. I've got, 150 clients I work with across the country now, not all at the same time, obviously, but this is the book of business. And there are first-time clients who, I get to their house or I'm doing it virtually with them, and either they open their laptop and they're in their closet, or I walk in their front door and I tell them, wear comfortable clothing. No, if you wear makeup, no jewelry. And I go, we're going straight to your closet or wherever you store your clothes. And I can tell, I can watch the body language. There's like a little bit of this like tense discomfort. And I know there's fear because I've heard it too many times to feel confident in sharing that there is a degree of fear in individuals when I do this. And then, which is why I go back to the word approachability, because this is such an intimate thing for people. I mean, your closet is probably one of the most private parts of your home.
Yeah.
And physical spaces in your life.
Wrong P word in is pathetic.
Well, everybody's a little self-critical.
Well, I have let me interject a question
Go
here
ahead.
then, because like I when I go into a restaurant,
Sure.
right, ranging from bar and grill to quail eggs by themselves, right, and everything in between. I always have in my head, I have this litmus. Yeah,
They're good.
yeah, one with a drop of balsamic, whatever. I always have this thing in my head where I like, okay, how brown is the menu, right? And I look, so you go into bar and grill, 8 out of 10 items are fried, right? Yeah. So my brown factor.
I'm excited to see where this is going.
Yeah.
Closets and personal taste, people tend to be their menu, right?
Sure.
Is there a quote brown menu like in your head when you walk in and like, oh my God, that's a lot of beige. I won't say brown.
I understand. I think I understand
Or
what you're saying.
pastels, or because what you find chic or relevant or cool or whatever, a lot of people hire you because they probably have no idea even what their own tastes are at the end of the day. How does that work without insulting a new client?
Oh my gosh, there's 5 questions in there.
Yes.
I'll start by saying...
We're pros.
I love it. I'll start by saying to the point of, I think what you're asking is this menu thing. Are there really common themes that you see across the board? That's how I'm interpreting that question a bit.
Well, there's going to be people listening that are like, oh my God, I wonder if I could use somebody like this.
Sure.
And what I'm trying to figure out is, what is this process? Because there are people that are probably very afraid to let somebody like yourself into their world, into their private space.
Yes.
And connect the dots between how they look. Because self-consciousness is a massive trigger for a lot of people.
Probably everybody, just on a different degree.
Correct.
Even for anybody who says it's not.
So
there are deep uncertainties in all of us and insecurities, and I think they come out in different ways. So to answer your question about, if someone's thinking about this, what is the process like? I can be a little bit more like, here's the process. And it is having a conversation with somebody first and foremost. I get on a call with someone. We always do video. I think when I work with anyone new, it usually comes through referrals just because, when you tell your friend, Laura came into my closet and she helped me get rid of the noise. She helped me maximize pieces that I own. She helped me get rid of things that are no longer serving me for my lifestyle, for my body, for my preferences. She brought clarity to a space that has for a long time really clouded my mind in so many ways, whether it's you feel insecure about your body in clothes, whether you change your outfit 3 times before you're going to dinner because you are getting a little bit socially anxious to go out and you feel like you're not in the right thing and you want to make the right impression, or you haven't put the blazer on and you've got a big interview coming up and you realize that you put it off because you've procrastinated because you don't want to have to deal with the reality of if the blazer is going to fit or not, because you don't want to have to feel the pain of that in the moment of it. And so it's really just creating and establishing trust in a relationship and the willingness to be ready just enough with me, because there are people who I have come to work with years after knowing them or years after their expressed interest, and they will say, it's time now. This is a really, really sort of like tricky kind of area to be in. And I don't mean tricky in the manipulative, tricky way. I mean, like, I can't force anybody to let me come into their home and closet, nor would I ever do that to anybody. You have to be ready enough as the individual to say, okay, it's time.
What's the pivot? Why are they?
It's most often a point of transition in people's lives. It's I've either my body weight has changed or my body composition has changed. I am getting older, or I don't dress the way that I did 10 years ago. Or I'm done having kids and I want to do something different about it. Or a lot of people right now, men included, I will say, it's so fascinating just to see the fluctuations over, I only have an 8-year period, so it's not like I'm looking at decades of data here. Okay. So just keep that in mind. But, men and women included right now, because I know we're 6 years post of when, COVID, came and entered our lives. But it feels like what I've observed both on an individual level and then on a corporate client level as well, because I do a lot of work in dress codes for organizations, and we'll get a little bit deeper on that too, into style, not just being your aesthetics, but there's this return to, I won't even say only to work, but there's a return to, as much as people are connecting less and there's all this data out there on loneliness, people are hungry to actually start to show up and be with one another more.
Right.
And so I'm seeing a lot of people just really confused on, what is my aesthetic? Maybe it's this one thing over here, but it's also this thing over here, and I don't know how to put those together.
What's the difference between an individual's aesthetic and their brand?
And can I jump in real
Sure.
quick? And the one thing I really like how you separate is the differences between style and the differences in fashion. So
Okay, I'll
fashion
start
is
there.
kind of, I think that's a really good way. You were one of the people that helped me. I was somewhat notorious for my cardigan phase, which I'm still in. But, to really kind of embrace what is, now
quarter zips are apparently returning too.
And now quarter zips are a thing.
And New Balance.
And New Balance
everything's
shoes
back.
and white
We're gonna
leg
get
fags.
to those New
Oh
Balance.
my gosh.
But, to really kind of embrace kind of what's yours, right? And then also, then there's kind of the what's in, but then it's really the melding of that that helps you kind of go out the door. And, a lot of people have, it's interesting, there's stress streams, right? In mine is, there's the dream where you're naked, or there's the dream, what are some of the common, stress dreams out there? And mine is I'm partially dressed.
Oh no.
So I'm going to a gala or I'm going to an event. We're speaking of getting into people's closets, and I have some of it, but I don't have all of it. And I'm missing pieces, and I'm running back to the hotel room, going through the bag, trying to find the one thing I'm missing. And then I'm getting caught in the elevator going up to the big gala, and I'm parts of my tuxedo or whatever it is are missing, and they're fully dressed. And so I actually have this stress stream constantly. And so,
So how much do you charge to fix that?
And then, but and then as I started to get more
He and I have talked about this
and then
before.
as I start to get more into, as I started to get into clothes and shoes and fashion and shopping, I went from wearing something when I was heavier. I had a uniform because there were only so many things that would fit. And then now I have 25 pairs of shoes, or I have all the different blazers, and I have the different combinations. And now we're getting into the exponential possibility. And I noticed that before a big meeting, before a big event, there's so many options, and how that can be paralyzing. So in some ways it's adding to the closet, but another big thing is sort of filtering out, and how that really impacts who you're going to meet, what you're going to do, what your approachability is going to be.
Notes. There's lots of points.
So I'm just
I'm
like, I find, but I really find this work.
I'm like,
I really
is my
find this
t-shirt
work
clean and my shirt semi-pressed?
But everybody's different,
and everybody's
it's
like
on a spectrum, really.
Right. And so I just
my job
find,
is to meet people where they're.
but I just get it when I
moment.
wake up and I see that sort of daunting, closet. And you were doing work a while ago where you were digitizing, people were digitizing it. And I really get it. It's like there's so many things before you step out the door. Yeah. So I was one of those people that would definitely see the instantaneous value and very much needed.
I mean, he's
He and I
going
have talked about
straight to therapy after this session, by the way. So
Well, this is the psychology of fashion.
All right,
so.
I'm actually gonna hit a few points, and I'm gonna almost rapid fire them in a way, just to kind of like move
Boom.
through some things. So, one, style does not equal fashion. Style and fashion are not the same things.
Amen.
And I am not a perfect linguist by any means, but I do think a lot about language and words through the work that I do in my research and graduate studies in psychology of style. And so style really is the external manifestation of who you are, and your aesthetic choices are a part of that. So I'm going to weave your question between aesthetic and brand difference. Your aesthetics are really a lot of the visual things that you groom, or it's grooming your body, it's what you put on your body, tattoos, piercings, glasses. Those are aesthetics. And then your brand is a broader picture of that. Really, your personal brand is just a really fancy word for your reputation, right? And that carries, your style, your aesthetics, but it's also, what is your communication style? What is your relationship style? How are you presenting yourself and not only building a reputation, but also maintaining a reputation?
So let me take this the brand side of what you're describing. Let me create a compare and contrast. Go ahead.
Can I add one more thing to my rapid fire?
Sure, show.
And we'll go on to brand, because when I talk about style not being the same as fashion, and where style and brand also come in, these are really important points that need to be made from the get-go, which is style and fashion are not the same. Fashion can be a really frightening word for a lot of people. Style is a little less so, and it is my mission truly in life. And like, I have just a really great focus on this, like my North Star of helping one person once a day, which is every single person has style. Everybody, if you get dressed, you have style. It's a matter of, is your style helping you? Is it neutral, or is it hindering you? That's the first part of it. The second part of it is style does not equal expensive. People also, I think, fashion can equal expensive, certainly. And I don't want to knock on the word fashion or the industry. It's one of the largest industries in the world. It's great, but there's also problems with it too, right? With a lot of big things. But style is a word that is meant for me through my lens, through the research that I do, through the work that I do with individuals and organizations, is to really get people to say, you're right. I do have style. So when you can immediately clarify that for someone and they have the light bulb moment, that's where you can begin to open the door.
They absolutely do. Everyone has a style. Even
So-
you, JB. Hate to break it.
No, I know I do. My wife tells me, she's like, shit.
Right.
She's like, right. No, so two things. Number one, it sounds as if I'm hearing four terms in particular: fashion, style, aesthetic, and brand. Yeah, and I'm simplifying this.
Sure.
And it feels as if there's a concrete kind of a physical manifestation of fashion, which is the clothing itself. Aesthetic, as you mentioned, is kind of the appearance style is your style, which is a little bit more. There's cerebral things going on there. Maybe even it's like body language or.
Well, I was going to say the way that I look at the word style, and style for me is really the lead word, is your personal style, which is aesthetics are a part of that. And then you do have leadership styles, communication style, relationship style, social style. And that's where the work that I do through the psychology of style begins to intersect all of those things together. Brand is a big part of that.
So that's where I was going with this, because what I see is
Or personal brand. We should be specific and distinctive about personal brand versus an organizational brand.
That's where I'm going with this, because because I can understand like an individual who has the ability and the interest to like just help me selfishly for me, my closet, my style, I need help, right?
Right.
But in the corporate world, your clients that you're working that have employees or maybe even shareholders, et cetera, when you do approach them and you're leaning into more of the non-physical side of this, the style and the brand, when you work with a CEO or somebody that is going to be speaking to customers, shareholders, can you talk about what that conversation might look like? Because helping a person who's at home with a shitty closet, like, oh my God, my style is shit, help me, versus, hey, I'm Jensen Wong and I'm going to wear a black leather jacket everywhere because everybody knows that's my brand, right?
Sure.
What does that conversation look like out of the gate, and how do you discover
a strategy? Companies have a style, for sure.
Certainly. The conversation, the ones that I have had start, like a lot of conversations start, I think, when any organization is looking at potentially hiring an outside consultant or speaker, and that is there's a pain point going on, and they are trying to figure out how to unravel it and to do something about it, which is also a very simplified response to that question. I think we all know, and I'm going to give everyone the benefit of the doubt, that it's a lot more context and nuance than that. That being said, it's usually organizations who it comes in two ways. One, it's an organization that has a very clear culture and brand for themselves, and then how they want their team to a certain degree. We need to be really careful about how we're going to talk about this now, because people often think if style's coming into the conversation and culture within an organization, then it's only a one size fits all kind of deal, and that is not actually the case. It's helping this transition of, I think, understanding in our culture and in our broader culture, not organizational culture, in that we are more multidimensional than we have really ever been. And we, on one hand, there's 5 generations in the workplace that are working together right now. And that makes things even more complicated in terms of generational behaviors, generational experiences, generational expectations.
So we've got silent, we've got boomers, we've got Gen X, we've got millennials, we've got Gen Z,
and then Alpha is going to be coming up soon.
And they're all integrating into the mix.
Yes.
Fascinating.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so there are behavioral and psychological differences within all of that. So sometimes, to then zoom back in, I come in because an organization says, we've got some people on our team, different generations, who we want to make sure that we have a little bit of alignment in terms of like how we want to show up for our clientele in particular. I don't work with all industries, of course. I work with, to no surprise, a lot of people in financial services and the broader financial industry. I work with a lot of people in fashion, and I work with a lot of people in real estate. I certainly have a lot of attorneys who are clients as well.
Well, can I give an example? So one of the issues that this
is a long question to answer.
One of the clients that we share out there. But,
no, I totally get it.
This was a thing. So we had a client that they started to have some people at the executive level wearing sneakers.
Yes.
So that was a generational. So some of the Gen X, and I would say even the older millennials and people in very high positions coming in with a generation that was a lot more, that was sort of suit and tie. And it's been so interesting to watch these dynamics work out in these corporations because it is such a signal. It is a major issue when you have companies that were still very formal. I think the other thing I also want to ask you is, do cities have a style? But the company too. It's like, what do I wear at work? What do I wear to connect to the company? What do I wear on an interview? And then watching some of those shifts, and we kind of had to explain that they're going to start to see more sneakers in the country clubs and in work and in some of these formal environments. Maybe they're very nice sneakers, different types of things. But as we start to integrate that style and fashion change into some of these traditional industries, I mean, that's exactly what.
Sure.
Because it's a kind of thing where they came to us and were like, I don't know if they should get the job wearing something like that to an interview.
Right.
And
so
it's like the world has completely shifted.
It has. So there's an education on that. And so one of the physical offerings, if we're going to get into the here's the one pager kind of thing, one of the physical consulting offerings that I do in that kind of example is where it's company wide and we go in and we do surveys and we talk to people and I understand the dynamics and the makeup of the organization and then what kind of, culture they're really trying to set, but also meeting more people where they're at in that. And that's a dress code policy. Like I literally rewrite dress codes.
We're talking about changing dress codes. It happened.
That's one of the things that I do.
Yeah.
So here's going to be my question. We're going to take a quick break. St. Louis's style.
Yeah.
Wrap your head around that a little bit. Super open-ended, I know, on purpose.
When you see people come in for an interview, at least what we've seen, and one of the reasons why one of the many reasons, but one of the reasons why I wanted to connect with you in our professional life, outside just the recruiting, is we started to see a lot of companies look at the dress codes that were changing in some of the cities, and as they started to integrate their companies, say with a New York company, or they were hiring a lot of people from San Francisco, it was something that came up on the interview and on the dinner constantly. So I was literally right here. One of my favorite cases was I was at Vicia, right around the corner here in Cortex, and I was with a bunch of three or four guys from Silicon Valley, who have a much different aesthetic and a much different code out in the Western. And then they found out at the dinner that on their interview tomorrow that the company was actually not business casual, but even more formal. And all of them went in the morning and actually said, "I'm not going to work here." We get.
I remember that story.
And that was a big deal. And so something where even in the dress code, signaled to them so many other things. The other example was sort of the Midwest nice, quiet. We would have candidates who would hear things like, "Your earrings are too dangly." Which would be funny for Kara to hear now.
Oh, I mean, I have clients in courtrooms who have been told their tie color, the judge didn't like the tie color, and it really did not work out well for them. These are real stories.
And then, we just went to casual Friday at this company is a blue shirt on a Friday, or, there's all of the different aspects of, and then, one of the things that I noticed too, and then there's also a way to kind of harness that, where particularly after COVID, some of the people really started to appreciate dressing again, and that everyone at that hospital was in a tie, even though they hadn't seen it in years. And so it's a major part of, we like to joke about the weather of St. Louis, but it's what do I wear? What do I wear in this interview? What do I wear at this company? And then that company's dress code is a signal to so many other things and a big part of their attraction and retention. And you kind of walk through all of that with the corporation.
Let's zoom out psychologically, behaviorally.
Yeah.
Every person, whether they want to admit to or not, wants to be seen, accepted, and validated, particularly by the people whom they admire and or aspire to be and or want to participate in working with. I mean, there's a long list for reasoning.
Or
right?
sign their checks.
I'm literally, it's like
It's
whatever
the
it is for
vertical,
you.
you know?
Exactly.
Yeah.
But really, we're going to go back and think about like hierarchy of needs here. Okay. Because people want to be validated, and they want to be in environments, and they want to be in groups where they feel like they're a part of it. This goes back to your word that you used before, which is belonging, right?
Yeah.
We all want to feel like we belong. And increasingly, I think we all want to feel like we belong in the workplaces in which, wherever we're getting our paycheck, maybe on a scale for different people too.
Sure.
And
But-
the companies do too. The
Companies
employers do too. They
absolutely
want to be
do
like,
too.
they want to be
this is
connected.
why I have
Yeah.
the opportunity to be invited
I mean,
into some
they're
organizations.
corporations are people, right? Sort
They
of.
are people.
Yeah.
I have a comment about that, about the difference
Yeah.
between personal brand and corporate brand. But just to stay in this lane, a little bit longer here, it's why companies do care, because, I'm a small sort of, lane in which, organizations are reaching out, but they're reaching out to somebody like me who does what I do because they do care about their people, and they're trying to understand, and they also want to be able to learn how to adapt.
Yeah.
And one of my biggest things that I do with people literally is helping people adapt themselves and still be enough of themselves, but also to do it to be able to read the room effectively.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a really hard thing to do, and that requires personalization as
So-
well.
And,
So
and,
let's-
how to connect
Well,
with
that's
the
the next
employees,
layer
and have
of
the
it.
employees connect with the company.
Yes.
And I've noticed something really interesting lately. There's the outfit. There's the difference in the outfit that you wear to work sometimes, or on the interview. And then we're seeing the outfit that they're wearing in the interview. So the company will tell us something like, "Oh, they're really formal, and they're so sharp, and they're very buttoned up." And then we go and we meet them at the hotel after the interview, and we've got a completely and totally different persona.
Well, first impressions
Yeah.
are a thing, and
Right.
there's that. I mean, you want to
right.
be able to, first of all, to answer that and to address that, not just first impressions, but for those of us who can see in this society, we are a highly, highly visual society. I don't
Yeah.
think either of you would argue that at all. And in fact, I talk about the research behind visibility and some of the surveys related to workplaces and people within organizations related to visibility. We've always lived in a visual world. Since we were drawing on caves, we were in a visual world, right? And so our visual world is so much more amplified than it actually has ever been. And so the way that we show up, our style, our personal brand, those are visual communicators to people. They're also communicators to ourselves, right? They set an expectation of, what do I think of myself in this moment, and what do I want others to hopefully think of me as well? That's a lot of work. That's like emotional exhaustion for most people, to have to output that much energy when we have to do a million other things as well.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it is such a critical aspect of life that I believe, of course, know what I do and where I'm sitting here, right? And where I'm coming from. I believe that when you begin to attempt to understand it a little bit more within the context of your lifestyle, within understanding how to read the rooms, it can offer you a lot more value than one may think it does. And one little caveat to that is, it changes throughout your life. It changes throughout a week too, because we can be involved in our organization, whether we're in a corporate environment or we work for a small team, or we can be involved with friend groups doing different activities. We can be involved in nonprofits in the community, and we show up, we want to be accepted, right? To go back to this idea of being validated and accepted and seen and not judged by others. At the same time, I'm going to say this, there's a reality in this sort of like, and let me explain it. I don't want people to get all hot and bothered about this, but like, there's a social hierarchy in all the rooms that you enter into. And it's doesn't always feel great for everybody, but when you understand the nuance and the context of that all, you can actually put it to work for yourself, because some people say, oh, I can't stand it. Or some people maybe frame that understanding of like, oh, it's politics. And that's maybe one way to look at it. It's not only that. It's also like, how long have you been involved? What is your understanding here? You know, what are you trying to get out of it? What are others trying to get out of it? I mean, again, the list is long of questions. And so when you, I believe when you can sort of take those stressful moments of maybe I'm not getting what I want in this moment, or I feel like I'm being rejected or not accepted as much as I want to be. I often encourage people very gently to say, like, maybe we need to peel the layers back on ourselves here to understand, like, what it is that you want to get out of this so that you can rebuild back to being able to enter that room, that metaphorical read
you
the
have
room.
a visual identity. And, you know, one of the things I think, you know, companies have a visual identity, and cities do too. I mean, they're looking at us. How are we dressed? I got to a point where I could be at an airport and I could tell which gate was going to St. Louis, you know, without even knowing the gate number.
Well, that
based certainly, and so you know,
there are regional differences
you know,
in the way that people dress in the United States.
You know, and you know, in St. Louis is kind of we've sort of got, you know, fishing camouflage chic with Lily Pulitzer preppy, and there's so many things about the visual identity of St. Louis, and like, you know, does Midwest, you know, how does Midwest nice impact in style, and like, does St. Louis have a dress code? Do we have one? Like, if I go in the South, I kind of think of Kentucky Derby. If I go to DC, I think of you know, I think of different. New York, I think dark. I think black. I think, you know, I think hard.
Denver.
Cool. In Denver, I think
sleeveless,
you know,
Patagonias.
yes.
A lot of zippers, a lot of fleece.
You know,
I dress a lot of people in Denver and Boulder, actually.
Do people change?
No, they don't only wear that.
People change when they go into a new market, and do cities kind of have an aesthetic? And if we, you know, if we had one, what would it be? Or maybe we don't. Maybe we're searching for it.
I'll answer that last question last. I will answer the first part of the question essentially in, do people dress based on where they are or where they're going?
Yeah.
Is how I'm hearing that. And I pack for a lot of my clients as well. And so Anthony, you alluded to my digital platform. All my clients that I work with in their closets, and this also includes like corporations bring me in and I do enterprise style consulting. And so it's like an executive coach, but I'm doing that for employees and through their style as well. And so everyone's closet gets digitized. And it's like, some people, if you're familiar with the Share closet from Clueless, it's sort of like, that's not what it is, but that gives you a visual of it. And I pack for a lot of people. And I mention that because traveling can be really fun for people who are trying to understand what their style is. You can use it as a tool that's a bit more low stakes for you, where not only am I going to a destination where maybe I need to think about what my plans are, you know, what kind of restaurants am I going to, and wanting to sort of like be mindful of those situations. But you can also use it as a tool to sort of like step outside your comfort zone a little bit more with like very low stakes, because presumably you're with people you love and you're traveling with, and you know, you can sort of like try it out and then potentially not run into people. Although I've found when I travel, all roads lead back to St. Louis. I run into St. Louisans all over the place outside of St. Louis. Yes.
Yeah. They are a big export of ours.
Yeah.
Our people.
I'm an import now, though. You know.
You're going the other direction.
Yeah. But do I think that St. Louis has its own style? I think any community, you know, I think New York is like a very explicit example, because living and growing up and then living in Manhattan after college, of course, I loved wearing all black. You know, I moved here and people would say to me in the beginning, like, oh, you have your home team colors on again, all black. I'm
hilarious.
like, ha, 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 you know, like it was cute. It's endearing, whatever. But I will say, I think any sort of like larger urban area, you're going to get pockets of people who have certain kinds of aesthetics and style, because aesthetics aren't the whole of style. That's why I'm bringing those two words together with one another, where they tend to gravitate towards one another, right? Like we just talked about belonging and wanting to feel accepted. Like people sometimes who are dressed a certain way
we
gravitate towards
have
others
to
who are dressed a certain way.
we look at the city where they're coming from and then try to dress. They're going to look at how are we dressed, and they almost all comment on it. They comment on how people were dressed during the interview. You know, they'll say, "Wow, I need to up my game," or "I need to go shopping after this," or they'll say, "You know, I'm not going to be needing any of my blazers." There's all the different things, and so they're starting to evaluate that. But then it's like, what do you change?
I know. On that point, though, I just want to draw something in here because people, I think, don't want to, or don't want to have to think about it. Like I talked about everyone having style. We all have to get dressed every day.
Yeah.
Every single day, and more people than not, well, when you are going to an interview or you're getting invited to an event, let's talk about events. I'm just going to use this scenario here. You get invited to an event. Oftentimes the invitation will put a dress code on it to tell people, here's what to expect. Okay.
Yeah.
And that's a general term. And I'm just talking about this sort of loosely here. We don't need to get into the weeds on dress codes and language.
And
but
for those of you not putting dress code on invitations, please
do.
Please
It's
do
actually
that.
very helpful to people. Think of it this way. When there are...
I've done a lot of attire checks this year, and I mercilessly made fun of for it. But I'm like, it's such a courtesy. Like,
Well, I think
what are we doing, guys?
I think what a lot of people assume and I'm going to say with the best of intentions, whether it's for an event or it's for setting a dress code expectation within an organization, a big one I hear is like dress for your day, or people don't put it because they're like, just wear whatever you want.
Yeah.
That's actually not
harder.
helpful
It's
to
actually
anyone.
harder. Yeah.
I think we all as human beings are seeking actually clarity. We're seeking some frameworks. We're seeking guardrails. We're seeking simplification. And so to tell people what the expectation is and to show visuals, back to the visual aspect of all of this, is really mission
I find it
critical.
funny, though, because men have it so easy because at the end of the day, the invites that come to us, it's one question or one statement, tie optional.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, that is
Yeah, but does that mean jeans or no jeans?
Yeah.
No, I know.
What kind
I
of
mean,
jeans are you wearing?
They need to
What kind of
figure out
shoes are
the
you wearing?
jeans or no jeans, because that's really the question. And that's
Flats.
and then there's dark. They're
And
getting
I think
into
so
the
visual guides of saying not only here are ideas, but here's also what not to wear goes back to further clarification for people, which is why the work that I do, not only with individuals, but more broadly, with organizations, but also we talked about speaking. I do a lot of speaking as well. That's a part of helping more people understand why all of this matters so much, is just helping them know.
Is there an adjustment to be made when you come to the St. Louis
Are you
market?
really trying to get me to poke at St. Louis's style?
No, and actually not at all.
Yes. Yes.
I'm actually really curious, selfishly, just for my
Sure.
work. Is there even that you made? Is there a we talk a lot about the history of St. Louis, and so we always made shoes here. There was jewelry. We sold a lot of
Pantyhose.
a lot of Louis Vuitton bags. There were certain things, but then you look at something that comes up on this show all the time, and then you look at the consignment market, and you look at thrifting. And so St. Louisans weren't spending; they were spending money, but not on couture historically. And then we also had textiles and manufacturing and various things. And so when you go to a market, like when I go to a Dallas or an Austin or a Nashville or a Denver or a New York, even DC, I know kind of what to do. What is ours? Are we building it? Are we building that aesthetic? Because I feel like we're a head fake in so many ways. We're not just in terms of what people are wearing, but in terms of just the overall aesthetic of the city is not what people are expecting. And is there kind of a Midwest, Ozark, Great Lakes identity?
I think we have actually a little more East Coast in our
Same.
aesthetic than we, I think, give ourselves credit
Correct.
for here in St. Louis.
Yeah, it's kind of like a Nantucket meets,
I think it runs
camouflage.
from Charlotte all the way up to Nantucket.
Do you?
Okay, I think
Yeah.
you actually get a lot of different people. If I'm going to talk about sort of like interpretation of other city, sort of like style vibes, if you will, with like dressing. Again, I don't think it's fair of me to sort of. It's why maybe I'm avoiding the question. Fair of me to really put like one or two words on what I think the style of the city is, because I don't believe it actually is one or two words.
Amazing.
So let me ask the
And it might
question.
not. It might be fluid, which we are in so many other things.
Let's get out of the apparel analysis of the city and let's get into the aesthetic
The
analysis.
psychology more.
So now that you've been here for 12 plus years, 13 years, whatever the number, what enthralls you? What do you like? let's have a little bit of
Oh,
fun here
yeah.
because you're still here. You're not here because of apparel. You're
Right.
here because of the city.
I'm here because of people and because of the places that I have worked hard to be able to participate in, and I enjoy it all.
And one of the things that you do that was such a great piece of advice in terms of connection and belonging was to kind of use the fashion or to use what somebody is wearing to give them a compliment.
I mean,
and
we
like
could do
that
a
is
whole
like-
other 90
and like
minute talk on this.
but to actually walk up into to have them build that connection to give them to give them the compliment, I think was just was brilliant, particularly when you're meeting new people in a community where so many people are native to this area and have known each other for so long. For a newcomer to walk up to somebody and compliment something that they've chosen is such a great icebreaker in a way, but also to build connection. I thought
is.
it was such a great idea.
Thank you. I'm going to bring both of your points together and tie them up with a nice bow. I love this town, and I'll get into some of the specifics of like what I love about it and where I go and all that good stuff too. And I mentioned earlier on when I moved here, I was like, I had to make a choice on, I have to show up. No one's going to do it for me. And so certainly I'm a big believer in the psychology behind compliments and connection. I think it's a very easy surface level way for people to actually break the ice, if you will, start a conversation, learn how to have a conversation if you want to get better at that, and begin to just build connection with someone because of like genuine commonality. And for me, that's where I started to get involved in different parts of the community. I talked before about being sort of like hypothetically, like in my mind, afraid to like go leave the house and walk around my community because in my mind I was like, what if someone sees me? And I'm like, no one knows me, so it doesn't matter. And like, there's so many more rewards than risks, of course. And so I share that story because so many people I think feel that way in their own different ways, especially these days. And I think it's a really important thing to honestly admit to and talk about, because when you know that and then you're in a new place, or maybe you're from here and you just sort of like want to expand your network a little bit, you've got to go be a little bit uncomfortable.
Do people change their style when they go to a new city? Is that kind of is that part of an identity? Do they?
I think people want to like,
somewhere?
you could think of a city or a community as like a bigger reading the room moment, certainly.
Yeah.
So Anthony talks about this all the time about his day job and clients, and we've had a number of guests on the show that are C-suite-esque who have talked about when they come to St. Louis, one of the things that is a frustration for them is what they view as the lack of access or the lack of invite to be part of
the gatekeeping.
Oh.
Right.
Yeah.
This is such an important topic. It really is.
So you up until this point, you seem to kind of dismiss that in the way that you talk about your experiences, and the people have been great, et cetera, et cetera.
Well, I had to get there.
That's what I'm curious about, because
you had to work too,
and
Yes.
and normally some of these individuals that we've talked about,
they don't come to you.
they have a spouse or a partner who's from here, which would theoretically
It's like a
make it
baked-in network,
easier.
right.
Neither one of you are from here.
No.
Yes, he went to WashU, which gives him kind of like
Sort of,
a
right,
pass, a
sort
hall
of,
pass.
sure.
Talk about your own experience or perception as to St. Louis from a organizational standpoint, from your network standpoint, and being accepted in.
Certainly. I got that question a lot, actually, and it's something that Anthony and I have talked about over the years as well. And it's something I'm really grateful for, because there are a lot of people in this community who have actually come up to me, and once they've gotten to know me a little bit and, know a little bit about how Mark and I are neither from here, and they say, how did you do it? Mm-hmm. How did you break in?
What's the
right?
playbook?
Yeah. How did you make it happen? And I will give some specific examples over time. And I think I will share them just from my own experience share, but I think it's going to be a little bit different for everybody depending on what they want to get out of their experience and where they're at in life. Okay. And so for me, I think one of the first maybe sort of like markers of participation and building a network and getting involved and taking action and then hoping that that action is received was going to the St. Louis Art Museum. I think it was probably at this point maybe almost 9 or 10 years ago. And I started walking around, and then I think maybe I met one person through somebody I was working with who worked at the museum in the development department, who no longer is there. And they said, "Oh, we need some young people, who are," I love that term.
Yeah, but it's true.
Yeah, we need some young people who are, they're like, "You seem outgoing." And I recognize, part of this is like, I'm a very extroverted person and not everybody is as well. But just because I'm extroverted doesn't mean I'm comfortable in all the social situations that I walk into either. And so he was like, "Get involved with Slam Underground." And it was like a Friday night, once a month party.
Unbelievable
sort of thing.
party, by the way.
It is.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay. And had to make the choice to say, I'm going to put my Slam Underground t-shirt on tonight with a pair of jeans, and I'm going to go stand behind a table with someone I just met, and I'm going to go hand out rubber band bracelets to people, in the basement of the museum while loud music is playing and people are having a great time. And that is a really terrifying thing for a lot of people. Yeah. Especially, quote, young people. But I think for anybody in any situation, you can sort of translate that. And what happened from there was, I would go to meetings and just sort of like try to read the room and like, maybe use compliments, ask people things about themselves, connect with them. And I think we collectively so instantly want us to sort of like be accepted in the room immediately. That's a natural feeling, right? We don't want to feel unsure of like where we stand, the theoretical standing somewhere. And part of it is like being okay with being uncomfortable and maybe like people not giving you the benefit of the doubt or giving you the chance as quickly as you want them to. And what I will say is I am now involved more specifically on the board at the museum, and I've been involved for almost a decade there because I've learned, and I will share a specific example in particular that I think speaks to this, like how did you do it kind of thing. One is like some advice I got from some of my clients who happen to be really, really smart, incredible leaders in this community, who I work with one-on-one, who also happen to be great teachers of mine too. I think there's this mutuality where like we can't all do everything in life and we need each other to help us in other areas of life. And some of these women over the years have said to me, in this community in particular, they said, "Laura, you start showing up and then you show up again. And then you show up again and again and again."
Yeah.
And that was that was the beginning. And what I learned, what my aha sort of moment was a few years ago was, okay, I know how to show up. It's not just about showing up now. I had to get through that sort of threshold. Now the next threshold is, how do I present ideas to people where I want to be doing more and then show them, prove to them that it works so that I can make that happen over and over and over again. And that's how I've actually looked at growing my business, which is how can I make this as easy a yes as possible for this person now?
In a show me state, it's fitting. But is that a culture that's everywhere? I mean, it's a be on a board, it's a trivia night. And as a young person coming into a new community, your favorite term, how do you kind of, is that something that exists in other markets? It's like when you tell somebody you're coming into St. Louis, you're going to get on a board, you're going to start being at the museum, you're going to...
No, you don't tell someone that actually. Yeah. That's like the worst expectation you tell somebody. You say, go and experiment, and you need to go and like do a little research, ask some people, go put yourself out there. I think like it sounds easier said than done, but like I've been through the pain of it and I will go through the pain of it more in life. That's like for me where I said how to live a really rich life as it relates to St. Louis. I actually believe, I've only really ever lived in New York, but I think we are better primed in this community to actually participate and get more involved in things than other communities out there as well. We're hungry for it. We just need to find the place and the people, and we just need to enmesh it all together more and be patient with it too.
Accessible urbanism. Full circle.
Full circle, staying with it.
Here's what we're gonna do, because we're at your hard stop, because you gotta go work out here in just a little bit. Let's have a little fun.
Keep the mind fresh.
Let's have a little fun here as we roll out to the Manis Brothers. Go check them out there on Spotify. They are from the Lou. As I've stated before, we only play tunes from people from here. Rapid fire. Anthony, be ready.
I'm ready.
We're gonna do favorites. All right. Are you ready?
Yes.
Thin or thick crust pizza?
Thin.
Wow.
Provel or
The New
mozzarella?
Yorker.
Mozzarella.
I tried.
I
walked in.
love St. Louis, but
Go
I'm
ahead.
also not going to lie about the things I like and don't like.
Give me some of the artisans. Give me some of the fashion world. I mean, what is one of the things that I love too? Like Adam Foster.
Oh, I was
That
like, Adam Foster fine
unbelievable.
jewelry.
Where-
Oh
Like
my
the
gosh.
makers, the artists.
Yeah.
the-
Where do you buy your shoes from?
Where do I buy? Oh, well, this isn't a St. Louis answer. I buy them online. I buy them from resale sites because I beat my shoes up and then I cobble them. So they.
Favorite dive bar here?
I live near Rosie's.
Gotta be
I was gonna
Rosie's.
say
Gotta
Rosie's.
be Rosie's.
I almost said, and why is it Rosie's?
It's convenient. And
What's your restaurant? Is it?
oh my God, this is okay. Hold on. This is such a hard
This is
question to ask.
rapid fire. Go.
Oh God, Louis.
It's Louis. It's gotta be.
No, but
Good
a
choice.
car and Louis at the same time.
Oh, that's such a hard one. I love
Here,
it.
I'm gonna put you on the spot. Zoo or art museum?
Art museum. Come on. I have bias. Okay.
Light beer or rosé?
Rosé.
Rose all day.
Come on, Anthony. What do you got? Watch or no watch?
No watch.
Okay, St. Louis. Which of the 4 seasons do you like the most?
The 1 week of fall.
There you go.
Yeah, fall is incredible.
It reminds me of the Northeast.
All right. Well, Laura, this has been fun. Did you have fun?
I had a great time. We obviously could have talked for much longer, and we don't need to.
Just getting to it.
Anthony, well done.
Thank
my
you.
friend. Laura Sawyier, thank you very much. We'll have
Thank
a link
you.
to your services in the show notes. Until next time, B-Side, we're going to roll out here. Manis Brothers, as I just stated, and enjoy your Friday or whatever day of the week it is when you listen to this. And pay attention to your style. If you have any problems, hit up Laura. She's got you. All right, guys.
Happy
we're out.
Friday, guys.
See ya.
Light going down.